we don't know for sure exactly what's going to happen in the face of climate change. But we do know three things. First thing is that if you look back over California's history and the history of the western United States over the past 1,000 years, the last 150 years actually look pretty good. Over the last 150 years, we've had droughts probably about every 10 to 15 years. And we're used to those droughts being relatively short. In some cases, they're just a couple of years. At their longest, they're somewhere between 5 and 7 years. If you go back and you actually look at the records from a period of about 1000 to 1300 AD, what you find is that there were some droughts that were much longer than anything that we have seen today. Some of those droughts lasted, for example, up to 13 years. Of much greater concern is that there were periods of time that sometimes lasted 80 to 140 years, in which, although not every year was a dry year, we never recovered from the droughts that we had. So we would have a 13-year drought, and then maybe we would have rain for a year or two, but that wasn't enough rain to make up for the 13-year drought we had already seen before we went into the next 10-year drought. And over those periods of time, we actually know that a number of our lakes and rivers actually shrank in size because of the little precipitation that we were seeing during that period of time. So the first thing is, even without climate change, if you look back, we need to be prepared for much worse droughts than we've seen over the last 150 years. Then second of all, if you look at climate change, we don't know exactly what's going to happen to precipitation levels in the state of California. Precipitation could go up, it could go down, it could vary, as Debbie already mentioned, region to region. But what we do know is it's going to be warmer. And as a result of it being warmer, we'll probably have smaller snowpacks, and those snowpacks will melt earlier in the year. And that's of concern because those snowpacks are a natural reservoir for us, and to the degree they are smaller and they melt earlier in the year, it's going to be harder for us to harvest those for the water that we need. In addition to that, if you're a farmer, your evapotranspiration rates are higher, your crops are going to use more water, and therefore the little amount of water that you have isn't going to go as far as it might otherwise go. And then the third thing that's important to recognize is that climate change is not just about a change in the mean. It's not just about whether or not over time we're going to have more rain, more snowpack, less snowpack. Climate change is going to bring extremes. Felicia mentioned already that California is a state of extremes. We have extreme droughts, we have floods. What we pretty well know under climate change is those extremes are going to become more extreme. We will have more drought periods, we will have more flood periods, the droughts will probably be worse, the floods are going to be worse.